This meeting is being recorded.
Well, thank you so much for joining me this afternoon, Mrs. Leptich.
Thank you, Caleb. I wish I could be there with you all on that wonderful Saturday.
Yeah, you definitely will be missed, but fortunately we've got a great crowd and excited to get this thing going. And so just
I heard you're expecting over 100 some.
we have confirmed in the room now approximately 50. What that doesn't capture is significant others and so forth. So I wouldn't be a bit surprised if it wasn't 100 or more.
Oh, that's a real tribute to Dover and to all the parents and the teachers and the students. I mean, it's just obvious why they're all coming, is to see each other again and relive all those wonderful memories.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit about when you came to Dover. What was that experience like?
Mr. Glenn Lang hired me to teach at Dover. I think my interview was about 15 minutes long. And I'm going in and out. Okay. And I just immediately had trust in him, and he demonstrated his confidence in me by immediately taking me over to the junior high and showing me where my room would be. So that's when I kind of figured maybe I was hired. And that was, I got to get my resume out here to check that. That was 1986. And I taught English, social studies, speech, and grammar to grades 6 through 8. And let's see, it was the first 4 years that I taught there. And then I tried to retire, as I remember. And that was when they were changing superintendents. And I got a call, I think it was either Christmas Eve morning or maybe Christmas morning, from David Bainham asking if I would consider being interim superintendent while they launched a search to find a new one. And I said, David, I have to get a cup of coffee and talk to my husband. I will call you back. So I came back as interim superintendent. And then after that, after we completed the search for that, went back to teaching at Dover. And I was there for about 13 or 14 years all told, including about 3 as principal. And my memories are they're just overwhelming. I don't think there's a day goes by that I don't tell somebody a story about Dover, about one of the students or about a teacher, or somebody will say something and it will trigger in me a memory that I just have to tell them about. And I wish I could relive all those memories with all of you that are there today, but I have responsibilities at my church. I have to be in the bell choir, and I wouldn't be able to stay overnight. And I have a car that I don't think would really get me there and back. So I just had to say no. But hopefully you will have these more often than every 10 years or so, and I can get together again with everybody.
Well, I certainly hope so. If there's enough interest, I think that probably every year or two, we probably better have it for a while, because there are, none of us is getting any younger and all of that. So very pleased to have, I believe on Saturday, we will have Miss Cox and also Mrs. Frederickson. And so just very pleased to have them.
And I think
several others, even some of the teachers from the 70s, I think, are going to be there as well.
Oh, that'd be wonderful. And I think the whole junior high crew is coming back, except for maybe Mr. Lawson, who you talked to, and you don't know yet whether he might just still show up.
I tried to get him today. I left him another message. Hopefully we can get a recording or something to read from him, even if he's not going to make it, but we will see how that goes. So I didn't realize your time at Dover started just a little bit before mine. So I would have been 5, I guess, when you started at Dover. And so that's about kindergarten. I'm trying to recall if maybe it even was when I was in kindergarten that you started there in Dover, or it could have been first grade. Did Glenn Lang retire in the spring of the year that you came or the year after you came?
Now, I think he was principal for it at least at least 2 of my years, because I remember going to his retirement party. So I'm not sure exactly. You said Ruth might be coming, and she could tell you for sure. But um, uh, I just have the highest respect still to this day. We talk about some of those people that we can't call by their first names, and Mr. Lang was always one of them for me. I don't think I ever once called him Glenn, but I remember so many wonderful times with him. The square dances I remember being at his home. We had a high school student who was had no, I had my ex, it's kind of my sister-in-law in a way. Anyway, she was speaking at the high school in Osage City, and I brought her to interview Mr. Lang about him coming home after World War II.
Mm.
And what an emotional, grand interview that was, and the stories that he told us about his involvement in World War II just stick in my mind to this day. And he was he just by being with him, you were just a better person. And he shared things with you that he knew would stick with you. And I just think his overwhelming trust of his staff gave us the freedom to be the best that we could for our students. We always felt his support.
That is for sure. He, excuse me, he didn't mention that time very much. But I think at least one time when he was my basketball coach, he had mentioned a little bit about the sands of Iwo Jima, I believe. And so that was a whale of an experience for, he had to have been very young, as all those guys were, and just really awful what they went through. But I've always been so extremely grateful for the sacrifices that were made. And an awful lot of those boys didn't come home. And it's because of their sacrifice that we have the freedoms that we have today.
Oh, absolutely. One story that I particularly remember was he was sent out on patrol, and he was to look for any Japanese emplacements or even signs that there were any Japanese around. And he was out ahead of the patrol, and he said he came up a hill and then around the hill, and he was met eye to eye, gun barrel to gun barrel, with a Japanese soldier. And they were both young men. And he says they both pointed their guns at each other, and then they both lowered their guns, and the Japanese young man turned around and walked away.
Wow.
And and tears came to his eyes, and tears come to my eyes when I think about that. That those two souls, in the midst of, all that bloodshed, spared each other and showed respect for each other.
Absolutely.
And I just think that's a Mr. Lang story I'll never forget.
Wow. Imagine how many lives would have been different without his influence had that gone a different way.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I want to say to all my former students that I am just so glad that you're gathering together to meet with each other. And I love seeing you on Facebook. I love seeing your grandchildren, even though it makes my back hurt to think that my 7th grade students have grandchildren now. But it's so wonderful to stay in touch on Facebook. And please know how much it means to me to share your stories as adults. And I'm just so proud of all of you.
Well,
And to the people that I taught with, I know I don't have to say this, but treasure this moment, because these are connections that you just don't make in normal social life. These are connections with people who we have all made each other what we are today. And I think because we're together, we're all better people. Excuse the tears, but I just can't help it. I love Dover.
Well, and Dover loves you, Mrs. Leptich, and it's you talk about running into people and reminiscing about those years. Well, anytime you run into somebody from Dover, if they were a student of yours or even a teacher or a parent, they recall you fondly and always wish you well. I couldn't believe, of course, when you send invitations to weddings, you send to anybody you ever heard of, basically. And I know that my wife and I were so very touched, and I know that you have touched so many of our lives with kind words and something to make the day memorable. And we just really cherished that, certainly. I think that a friend of mine, was when you were in South Carolina, I believe, there was the names, I think, written in sand in a picture that was framed that was a gift. I think we got a crock pot, and goodness, did we use that so wonderfully. But thank you so very much for that.
Well, I'm so proud of what you've done and of your beautiful family. And yeah, I don't know if you know this, but I was born in Louisville,
Oh, wow.
and I don't know if you know. Do you know Berea College
We went
in
past there
Kentucky?
through the hills and hollers one time, out and about. So it's a very neat area.
Yeah, it is. And so when I first saw on Facebook that you were in Kentucky, I thought, well, see, these connections just are never ending. We just never know how our lives are going to cross.
It is
But
for
I
sure.
appreciate that, and I
I
want to tell everybody.
recall in junior high seeing a video that you showed us of you clogging, if I'm not mistaken. Can you tell a little bit about when you were a clogger and all of that?
Well, I did actually during one of the square dances in Dover. We brought the clogging team, and I'll never forget when Sonny saw us hit that gym floor with those taps on our shoes. He just he just lowered his head like, "Oh no, I'm never going to get these scratches off this floor." And I felt so sorry for him. But anyway, yeah, I started Pam's School of Mountain Clogging while I was still in Dover, and we had ended up with 3 teams, all of which I'm proud to say were championship teams in one way or another. We clogged in 6 or 7 different states. We clogged in Silver Dollar City and a lot of places, it was a great 12 years of my life. And although I don't know that my feet would be able to clog now, because even pulling weeds, I've noticed the ground is getting lower. But yeah, it was a great decade or 2 of my life, and I learned how to clog in South Carolina. I had to take the beginning class 3 times, but I finally got it, and just thoroughly enjoyed the clogging.
I know you taught so many wonderful things over the years. Is there a kind of a top 5 list or something of either poems or passages or readings or even if it's grammar, just things that you enjoyed teaching, or any memories that are attached to any of that?
Well, I've always enjoyed literature, and I think one of the books that students still remind me of today that they learned a lot from. One was Jonathan Livingston Seagull. Um, that everybody seemed to enjoy, and we would watch the movie, and then we would talk about Jonathan and the things that he learned about life and never giving up, and compassion and honor for. I mean, there was even sections in Jonathan about honoring your elders and revering your elders, and they were all very powerful lessons. I think when I taught history, just the opportunity to bring the culture of other nations into the classroom, we would have, I don't know if you were around then, but we would have Greek meals, and then we'd have British meals, and we would eat them right there so that we would get an idea of the kinds of things that people in other countries enjoy. And oh my gosh, there's just so many. But I think probably my fondest memory was Jonathan Livingston Seagull. I know we looked at. Well, actually, we started a class on how to live life, where we taught how to sign a checkbook and how to buy a used car and how to find a good repairman and how to keep documents that you needed for your taxes and all these things. And I would get notes from parents later that said, they were so thankful for this, just talking about life and living life day to day and the things that you have to be aware of and protect yourself from that are out there in that cruel world. Those seem to be, good memories of things that people have said they've used later, which is most important. When somebody can look back on their 7th grade year and when they're 43, they remember that lesson. That's what teaching is. So that makes me real proud.
Absolutely. That's the sort of thing that we would call adulting nowadays. When I was a public library director, we had sessions that were similar to that, called Adulting 101. And so like changing a tire or fixing a meal in a mug in a microwave and all of those sorts of things, that are helpful not only for college, but also later in life. And it's amazing how people are coming back to things like knitting and crochet and stuff like that, even the younger generation. And I think that any time that you can use your hands and make something, it's a good thing, something that will be with you forever and be a help as you live your life. So.
Well, this is my favorite quote and I want to leave it for the students and the parents and the former teachers and everybody there, is that if you ever think you can't make it, grab a mirror and take a good look at your hero. And I wish that for everyone.
Well, I think we're kind of looking at one of our heroes right now, Mrs. Leptich, and I know that you're always so humble and self-deprecating, but you really have touched countless lives, hundreds, I'm sure. Well, and on the stage, probably thousands and thousands over the years. But you just have such a wonderful personality and just such a heart to connect with folks and to make everyone's life better.
Thank you so much. And just, take that times 100. If I've touched hundreds of lives, each one of those has touched mine. So I'm the one who's richly blessed. So Caleb, please do this again, and I will rent a car if I have to get there the next time you have this.
Well, goodness, I'm sure that somebody would go and get you. We could probably set something up.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, I know you had asked early on, about, when you could meet me there in Dover and things like this. And I should have gone ahead. It probably wouldn't have made a difference in the long run, but I had thought, what, do you have a place to stay? Come and stay with us in Manhattan and we'll make sure that everything works out. But I know that everyone will be so glad to see this video. And I think probably the best way, because there are, a couple hundred folks who have been invited, and we'll probably have a fraction of that, even if it is a good number, 75, 100, something like that. There will still be folks who didn't make it. And so sharing this, I think, on the Facebook group will be helpful on that day. And as we're able to catch additional little videos like this, I think that people will enjoy being able to reminisce and see that folks are, doing well, and that they do remember us in some ways as fondly as we remember them. So.
And I would love to turn the tables on this. And if you can do any filming at the reunion that you can share, I would love to see it. And I know all the people who can't be there would love to see it. So think about that.
Yeah, well,
that's your assignment, Caleb. Caleb, that's your assignment.
You know, that's a good thought. I may be able to grab some folks and do a couple of short one-on-ones in one of the side classrooms or something that we can then
Oh,
share because
that would
uh,
be wonderful. If you could just take a sweeping panorama film of everybody standing together, I would treasure that.
we're definitely going to get still shots. I'm thinking through how to get all these folks. If it's a nice day, that would really be helpful. We might have to get a couple of these pictures outside, but I do know that from all the pictures I've seen, and of course, some of those pictures I'm in, the ways in which those photographers would get folks with a row of chairs and then people standing behind the chairs and then people sitting in front of the chairs and people sitting on the stage and people sitting on chairs on the stage if they have to, and then even perhaps standing on the stage. And so it can be done where we can get quite a few people in the shot, because I'd love to have everybody in attendance in one good picture if we can, and then individuals with the teachers and students that they had. In some cases, we might have to do it by decade. But
Yeah,
I think that a lot
like
of really
decade,
good
isn't it?
pictures are in the works, so it'll be good.
Maybe you can use a drone. See, I'm not as old as you think.
Yeah, I don't know if I know anybody who has a drone. There could very well be, and you just never know. Yeah.
Well, I wish everybody a wonderful time and lots of hugs. And I wish I could be there, but in a way, I am. I've been there since 1986. I love you all.
Well, we love you, Miss Leptich. You have a wonderful rest of your day.
Okay, and you too. And thanks so much for putting this together, Caleb.
No problem.